The Illinois EV rebate program already ran out of money just 6 months after the program went into effect. So what does this mean for anybody that is interested in applying for this rebate? Will there be future funding? And will you still qualify with future funding? We'll discuss that all in this video. So the Illinois EV rebate program was part of a wider Illinois energy legislation plan signed in late 2021. Now the EV rebate was set to go into effect July 1st, 2022 and allocated $4,000 towards the purchase of a new or used BEV or battery electric vehicle. Now plug-in hybrids as well as traditional hybrids do not qualify for this $4,000 rebate. Or there's a $1,500 incentive for fully electric motorcycles. One of the main points of this program was to allocate or prioritize these incentives for low-income buyers. Now, whether or not there's a lot of low-income buyers purchasing EVs or electric motorcycles, well, that's a totally different question. But anyways, the funding is prioritized for low-income purchasers. Now, the total amount of funds for this program at launch in July 2022 was just over $17.9 million. So the full criteria for this program is obviously you need to be an Illinois resident, so currently living in the state of Illinois. The vehicle has to be purchased from an Illinois dealer and has not been claimed on this program in past years. So basically any vehicle that you should be purchasing now should qualify, given there is a requirement to keep the vehicle for at least 12 months from the date of purchase. Now all of this is tracked by the Illinois EPA and I assume other government agencies via the VIN number of the vehicle. Now the vehicle cannot be rented or leased, only purchased. It is open to individuals only, so businesses, government units, organizations, and other entities are not eligible, including LLCs and other things like that. So it has to be done by an individual. The rebate amount of either $4,000 or $1,500 cannot exceed the purchase price of the vehicle, which makes sense. You're not profiting or anything like that. The purchaser must retain ownership for the vehicle for a minimum of 12 consecutive months after the date of purchase. The application must be submitted during an open period cycle and within 90 days from the date of original purchase. And of course, low-income applicants receive priority under this program. So now at this point, you might be wondering who qualifies as low income under these rules. Well, they're going by the United States Department of Health and Human Services, and the rules are to be considered low income, you cannot exceed 80% of the state's median income. So I just want to put this quick correction in there, and that they actually go by household count as well as income levels for anybody over the age of 18 under one roof. So for example, if you have 3 people living in a household, you have a limit of $68,656 according to the chart that they provided. So just note that this is different from what I mentioned in the video, and they'd go by household count as well as income levels. So that is the rules that they're going by to be considered low income. Although all applicants can file for this $4,000 rebate, you're just prioritized and kind of bumped to the beginning of the list if you are considered low income. So fast forward to July of 2022 when this program first went into effect. I know there was a ton of uncertainty. People didn't know exactly how to file, didn't know exactly how the rules and all the stipulations to go along with it. But quickly after they launched this program, luckily the state of Illinois rolled out a nice website, which I'll go ahead and have linked down in the description below, to has all the information on it, including the application forms, all the stuff that I'm giving you in today's video, and everything necessary to submit. So if you want to know a little bit more about it or just want to read it for yourself, make sure to check out that link in the description. So the first application cycle ran from July 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2022. And on that website, they have all of the application numbers for that first submission cycle. So you can see they break it down by low income received and awarded, as well as non-low income received and awarded. So you can kind of get an idea for just how much money was given out during the first cycle of submissions. So the total number of submissions was just over 2,700, and they approved 2,222. And of those amounts, there was just over 8% were considered low income. And this really isn't important because there was enough funding, enough money during this first application cycle that pretty much everybody who followed the rules, submitted correctly, and didn't get denied for whatever reason got the money during this first cycle. So that is basically what happened. There was a second cycle that opened up in November 1st, 2022, and is currently still going through the end of January 31st, 2023. So this is the second period that has been open to submit your purchases for an EV, and they do have some of that information on the website, although since the cycle is still open and the last date they updated was December 22nd, there's still more submission and more information coming. So I just want to make this quick clip because the day as I'm editing this, they actually updated the website to include more recent data. So up through January 12th, it looks like there's just over 3,000 total submissions for this window. And from when I filmed the video yesterday and the previous data as of December 22nd, there was an average of 54 submissions a day over the last 21 days, which is quite crazy. So you can see just how quickly this money ends up being used in this program. But I just want to provide this updated information. So now to sort of step back and analyze the numbers between these two submission periods that they've had open. As we saw, low income is very small, roughly 8% of the total applications in each one. So again, this doesn't represent a large number, especially in the grand scheme of things, with currently, I think, well over 4,500 applications received by the state. So very small, and I wouldn't say that EVs or battery electric vehicles are at the top of the priority list for these shoppers, especially if this is their only vehicle. So again, generally they're going to be more expensive than the average gasoline-powered vehicle, and this may present issues, especially with your living situation. If you have, can't charge, you have to rely on public charging. All of this goes into account when shopping for a new vehicle, especially an EV. Another aspect I want to touch on is that this program is actually a rebate and not a tax credit like the federal incentive is. So upon purchase, submission, and approval, you will get a check in the mail from the Illinois Comptroller for $4,000 or $1,500 if you were to purchase a motorcycle that qualifies under this program. So that is why this is a better program, in my opinion, where you're guaranteed the amount, of course, if there's enough funding for the program that you're applying for. But that is just a difference that I want to distinguish, is that this is actually a rebate via check rather than a tax credit done in your next year's taxes. Now, as of last year in December, I noticed that the funds were being used extremely quickly, and the overall allotment, especially when you divide it by 4,000, because I assumed most of the funds would go towards EV purchases rather than electric motorcycles, that it would only get you about 4,400 to 4,500 vehicles under the current allotted funds. Well, fast forward to January 1st, I sent them an email about this asking if there was additional funding in place or any information of upcoming funding for this program because I knew it was bound to run out within the upcoming weeks. And they said no, there was no information, but of course they gave me information as to where I can find information as it comes out. But unfortunately, they did not have any additional funding. So on January 11th, I checked back on the website and a red banner goes up stating that they basically don't have enough funding for the current amount of submissions for EV purchases, and that low-income buyers would receive priority for the current funding available. So I take it if you are considered low income and buy through the end of January, get everything submitted to them by the end of the month, that you would receive your amount through this program, and that you may bump some non-low income people out because you are going to receive priority through this program. So keep that in mind, I guess, if you're watching this in present time, that you might receive priority if you were to purchase one and submit everything by the end of the month. But unfortunately, there's a bunch of non-low income buyers who have submitted for the rebate, and they're just going to be denied because there's simply not enough funding. Now, in my email earlier this month, they did confirm that the 90-day window from date of purchase to submission will still be in place regardless of funding availability. So I can only assume that if you're one of these people that maybe purchased in the last week or so here in the middle of January and get denied because there's not enough funding available in the program currently, basically the clock is ticking. You have 90 days from your date of purchase to submit and basically hope that you get funding allocated to this program. So say 90 days goes by from your date of purchase here in January. I take this as meaning you are no longer eligible to apply for the $4,000 rebate. So this is a little bit scary, especially if you're kind of banking on getting that $4,000. But just note that moving forward that you have 90 days basically from date of purchase to submit for the rebate. Otherwise, you may not be eligible. So if you're planning on filing or do get denied due to funding availability, I would definitely keep track of this program very closely, because it could be within days of you kind of losing that 90-day window that a new funding becomes available and that you are able to submit. Now, one glimmer of hope that more funding will be allocated fairly quickly is the fact that this program was set to run for about a decade, at least past 2028, just in a tiered approach. So from now until the 2026, you're going to get a $4,000 rebate. Now, January 1st, 2026 through 2028, it was going to be a $2,000 rebate. And then from 2028 onwards, it was going to drop down to $1,500. So that gives me some hope that they were planning for the future. Now, I sure hope they weren't planning on the current or initial funds to last all the way through 2028, because that was a very small amount. But this does seem like there will be additional funding at some point, but whether or not it will be within 90 days of your purchase will be another question. So I guess my thoughts are this: I would not guarantee or plan on getting the $4,000 state rebate if you purchase right now here in January 2023. Now, it could be tomorrow, it could be 30 days from now that they allocate more funding for this program. But as of right now, I would say you are more likely than not probably not going to be eligible within the 90-day windows. But again, stuff may change. I could be completely wrong in my thoughts. Just keep an eye on the information if you happen to already have purchased or are planning on purchasing here in the very near future an EV that will qualify under all the other stipulations for the $4,000 incentive. So the Inflation Reduction Act went into effect August 16th, 2022, and that's when it was signed. And this was the date that changed a lot of variables and a lot of criteria for the federal EV tax credit. Now, of course, as of this date, there were certain manufacturers that were already not qualifying for the federal tax credit because simply they sold too many units already and had long been phased out of the program. Some of these were Tesla, GM, and Ford, and others were quickly approaching this threshold and probably would have been phasing out of the program currently early in 2023. So it is good that they changed the rules and regulations. However, this also disqualified a lot of other manufacturers as of this moment. Now, starting in 2024, there will be a point of sale transfer that can be done to the dealership that you're buying the vehicle from. This is currently not in effect, so if you do purchase and use the federal incentive during the 2023 calendar year, you have to claim it on your taxes next year. Now, when you combine these two programs together, the dates available that you could buy an EV and utilize both the state as well as the federal incentives, well, the windows have been extremely small, and that's mainly due to some of the changes that were signed in August of 2022 that changed the federal program. Now, as of January 1st, 2023, Tesla, GM, and all of these other manufacturers that might have reached the 200,000 threshold for EV sales were actually now eligible again. However, there were supposed to be more rules and regulations that still aren't finalized quite yet by the IRS as terms of the battery sourcing requirements and the mineral sourcing requirements for the raw materials inside of the battery pack. So this has been delayed until March of 2023, but currently January 1st through whenever the IRS releases those final details, currently any EV produced in North America qualifies for up to $7,500 tax credit on your tax return. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of EVs out there that aren't made or finally assembled in North America. So all of those vehicles, all of those electric vehicles that aren't assembled in North America no longer qualified as of August 16th when that bill was signed. Now, there were some stipulations that if you had an agreed purchase agreement that was signed, dated, and you took delivery between August 16th and the end of the year, that you could kind of utilize the old credit as long as the vehicle qualified, and of course as long as you qualified. So this was kind of a mess at the end of last year, but most of it has been figured out at this point, and there is a small list of vehicles that still currently qualify. Now, with the federal used EV rebate in place, this is also a $4,000 tax credit, not a rebate like the state of Illinois, but also up to $4,000. If you were to purchase something around the $14,000 to $15,000 price point, in theory, you could get that vehicle as low as about $6,000 all said and done. Now, are there any good EVs out there that are qualifying that are around the $15,000 price point? Probably not at this point, but just keep in mind that there is a possibility to stack the used side of things up to $8,000 as long as more funds become available in the future. And if you were to kind of sneak that in here at the very beginning of January, happen to purchase maybe a used Chevy Bolt under $25,000 here in the state of Illinois that qualified, you in theory should be eligible for up to $8,000 of discount. Part of that is the Illinois rebate, which will be done via a check, and the federal side of things will be done on your tax return next year and will be up to $4,000 as long as you have a tax liability of $4,000 or more. So that's basically it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and found something helpful out of this. I have not seen any real videos posted on YouTube covering the Illinois State EV rebate program and the fact that it's basically out of funding at the moment. Now, like I said, it could be a week from now, it could be 30 days, could be 6 months. Really don't know when more funds will become available. Just keep an eye on this if you plan on purchasing a new or used qualifying EV here within the next year or two, because I'm sure more funding will be allocated. It's just a matter of when and whether or not current buyers that might get denied are going to be eligible in the future. Now, let me know if you have any questions or comments on this program, and I will do my best to answer them. And I made sure to kind of double check and fact check all this information to the best of my abilities, but of course I may have made a mistake. So if I did make a mistake or you don't think something I said is correct, make sure to leave a comment below, let me know, and I will definitely look into it. So once again, hopefully you guys enjoyed and found this helpful, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.